This is the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast, and on this episode, we talk about how to dodge a bullet and not buy a lemon property, price fluctuations in the Cleveland market, Cleveland's hot areas versus stagnant areas, and much more.
All right, hello everybody. It's been a while since our last podcast, and once again, it's Friday at the end of a long week, and with me is Mike Ferrante, who once again has a early dinner engagement. So we're going to make this real quick, right, Mike?
That sounds good to me.
All right. We've got a couple of interesting podcasts coming up next week, everybody. We're going to be interviewing, or our guests are going to be a couple of ladies in California who have called us about investing in real estate in Cleveland. And thank God they listened to our podcast, not to necessarily toot my own horn, but one of them dodged a major bullet in terms of a property she was about to acquire. And the other one, well, she dodged a bullet. It wasn't as big as the other one, but we're going to get into details on those issues in today's podcast, and then we'll talk to them sometime next week. So the title of our podcast, Mike, is Please Don't Buy a Lemon of a House. So anyways, but before we get into that, we have a couple interesting little temperature checks on the market in Cleveland. And Mike, this falls under the category of be careful what you wish for. We have a minor LA market in Cleveland, which is presenting us with a few problems that we're not used to dealing with. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to talk about one, a condo listed recently in Chagrin Falls, and a small house that was listed and sold in the late fall last year. And in both occasions, the client was told that, listen, we're going to push this for X number of dollars. And they were thrilled. They were happy. They had to do some work in it. Well, all of a sudden they get within a couple of days, they get a couple of offers that are almost matching what the high number we had listed. And now they're disappointed. So
yeah,
you want to elaborate on that since it's Friday before you have your first drink for the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right, Mike. It's kind of an interesting phenomenon. The sellers are watching the news, they're hearing about the market, and I think we have done a pretty good job prognosticating sale prices, and it's hard to do when prices are fluctuating violently, which is not typical for the Midwest and certainly not typical for Cleveland. So when they're getting this input from other people, from news sources, and if we tell them it's going to sell for 100 and then we get them 100, 5 years ago it would have been like, great, good job, pat on the back, attaboy. But now it's strange. I'm having people say, well, I'm disappointed. I heard things are going over list price. And so the conversation I had with someone recently was, well, hey, what if we listed it at 150? Would you have been disappointed if we didn't get 155? Market value is market value, Mike. And I know I say that, it sounds kind of trite, but the house is worth what someone's willing to pay for it. It's not dictated by me or you or any other factor. Sure, marketing brings in more buyers, but at the end of the day, the buyer decides how much they're willing to pay for it, not me, not anyone else.
Right. I think one thing everybody needs to understand, and we're starting to appreciate with this hot real estate market, is you want to be careful that you don't miss your shot on the high end. Or am I saying that the right way? I mean, Look at, if you put a $100,000 house up there for 130, the market's going to tell you pretty quickly, nobody's interested in making an offer for that house. I've got a house across the street from our building at 160,000.
Yeah. And how long's that been on the market?
That been on the market for 3 months. There is no way that house is selling for 160.
And let me interject. And let me interject, because now you've hit a hot button with me, Mr. Riley. So is that owner barking at their realtor, hey, what the heck? It's a seller's market. Why is this house not selling? That's what we're suffering through right now on our side of things.
Well, here's the issue with setting too high of a price. Once that house starts falling in price as you make adjustments to the market, there's a stinky quality that surrounds that house. There's a whiff of desperation with the pricing.
Yeah,
And people feel that, well, listen, I'm just going to keep waiting for that house to keep falling. There must be something wrong with this house. It's been
exactly.
it's been on the market for 45 days, for 60 days or whatever. It keeps dropping in price. The market is telling everybody in the market that there's a question mark about this house.
And Mike,
And
as much as sellers know that it's a hot market, so do buyers. And when buyers see something now that's been on the market for even 3 weeks, they say, "Wow, why has that been on the market for 3 weeks?"
yeah, yeah. So you know what? My wife and I've been investing our IRA account in the stock market, and I know it probably is similar to the real estate market. There's what I've noticed as momentum selling. When a stock starts going up, I mean, the whole GameStop stock, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but all of a sudden that started going up like a rocket.
Yeah,
Tesla going up like a rocket. There's been a lot of stocks that through momentum selling, Bitcoin possibly. We're talking about wild gyrations in a stock price. But once it starts moving up, people think, let's get on this now and enjoy the ride because we think it's going to keep going up. And of course, the opposite is true. I mean, we've been sold some stocks in the biotech and then watched it fall and then decided, let me get back in there because I know this is a sector that's going to grow. And sure enough, after it plunges like 20, 30%, people think, well, this is a buying opportunity now. And then it goes back up. I'm not saying that's necessarily the same thing with real estate because, I mean, again, it's one house and it's not going to sell more than one time. But again, there's a certain psychology behind, especially in Cleveland, as opposed to LA. Because think about it, everybody, and Mike, in LA, people just assume that prices are going to keep going up.
right.
I mean, it's not like or Washington D.C. Or New York, unless it's in the pandemic. I mean, people just assume these prices are going to continue upwards. That's not the case in Cleveland. You want to jump on that point?
So, I mean, I think if we start talking about potential changes in price in the direction of pricing, the thing about the Midwest and Cleveland, again, in particular, is that it has always been a slow and steady market. We're the tortoise in the race of the tortoise and the hare, we're the tortoise. So 2-3% appreciation, you could bank on that in Cleveland. This market for us is bizarre. So while a lot of people are wondering, hey, is this another bubble? I mean, I can't even tell you how many times people have asked me, hey, Mike, is this another bubble? I don't know for sure. I honestly don't think so, though. I don't see an adjustment coming. And if there is one coming, I think it's going to be small. But the same factors aren't there that were there in 2008. We still have no inventory. It's not like someone can wave a magic wand and suddenly there's all this inventory. Now people will argue, well, we've got all these forbearances that are going to come due. And there might be another wave of foreclosures. When you actually look at those numbers, and I don't have the data handy, but even if half of those people that are in forbearance go into foreclosure, it's going to be nothing like 2008. And there's so many buyers out there, they will absorb that fresh inventory like a sponge. It's just not going to change significantly the outlook of the market.
Right. And I think there's a huge difference between now and 2008 because what you had was the bubble was inflated because of the lax lending laws.
Yeah.
That's not the case now.
In real estate, the question I'm getting right now is this another bubble? Everyone sees this appreciation like we don't typically have in Cleveland. In Cleveland, it's a very steady, stable market. So I compare it to the tortoise and the hare. We're the tortoise. We're slow and steady, and that's what you can bank on here in Cleveland for the most part. When you look at the appreciation that we're experiencing now, 7 to 10% per year, we're not used to that. Now, does that mean that it's a bubble? I say not necessarily, because even if there's another wave of foreclosures, let's say half of those people that are in forbearance, let's say they end up going into foreclosure, the demand is so high, the demand exceeds the supply by so much here in Cleveland that if there were another wave of foreclosures, the owner occupant buyers and the investor buyers would gobble up that inventory so fast that it wouldn't have time to make a significant impact on the prices in Cleveland. Now, could they plateau for a while? I could see that. Could they drop by 1%? Maybe, but I don't see a significant bubble ready to pop.
I also think Cleveland's real estate on whole has been undervalued. So I think you're seeing that upward momentum in pricing where it's become more on par with the national average. I mean, it used to be, like 5-6 years ago, people out on the coast would say, wow, I can't believe these houses are going for 70,000.
That's right.
And they were right. Those prices were really low. And
Yeah.
it's taken us a while to come back from that crash. I think they're now getting back to what I think they probably are historically worth. So that $70,000 house is probably settling in around 125.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think this upward momentum is more tied to the undervalued nature of the Cleveland real estate, and then of course you have other factors like interest rates, of course. But I think also the COVID has brought home the importance of living in a single family home.
Yeah.
That's what I've been hearing a lot on our rental market side. People don't want to live in a duplex. I mean, they want to live in a single family home.
Yep.
And especially in certain, neighborhoods. And this is where in certain neighborhoods, there is a strong price appreciation. You saw that with Chagrin Falls, Mike. You saw that 6 months ago with, Brooks House on Kingston in the Royal Heights, which is just white hot in terms of demand. And that's a pocket of a neighborhood that the word is out. This is the place to live, and there's no inventory. And whenever something comes up in the market, it is snapped up. And we didn't really appreciate how hot that market was 6 months ago. And I think you and I have made that adjustment accordingly. But you get other neighborhoods in Cleveland Heights that maybe are, half a mile from the Royal Heights, and that's a stagnant area.
That's right.
So what's confusing for a lot of outside investors is they don't understand that Cleveland, especially the east side of Cleveland where we specialize, the Cleveland Heights, Shaker Heights area, there are pockets of areas that are both stagnant, filled with a lot of foreclosures and vacant properties. And then there are areas like the Royal Heights, neighborhoods that are just coming on. And I think where you need to buy, and this is my opinion, so I'll be interested to see your pushback on this, Mike, where you need to buy is in those neighborhoods that adjoin the Royal Heights.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like when in New York, you could see how Brooklyn changed. And pretty soon, cities or neighborhoods adjoining Brooklyn would start popping up. And so working on the margins in areas adjoining these white hot neighborhoods, I think that's the play in terms of buying real estate.
I agree
thoughts?
100%. So we always talk about the mothership, the Cleveland Clinic. They're one of the biggest employers in town, if not the biggest. And for years, investors have always been trying to anticipate the growth of the mothership, the Cleveland Clinic. So we know that there are neighborhoods bordering Cleveland Clinic that are rough. The pickup house is cheap there. Is the clinic going to expand into that area? Is suddenly that going to be housing for doctors and interns and nurses and the maintenance staff at the clinic? Because but you don't know which way it's going to go, so that you get into a little bit of speculation. I think when you start talking about the neighborhoods adjoining, like you said, the Royal Heights, it's a speculation, but it's not as risky.
Yes. Well, I think about one of our clients, our longtime clients. She has two properties in University Heights along Silsby. Now, Silsby, if anybody wants to Google map, Silsby is that neighborhood that is adjoining the Royal Heights, and it's on the other side of Meadowbrook. I have noticed in the last year or two how easy it is to rent in that area. It's not only easy, but 5 years ago, our rents were like 1,100. Now they're commanding 15, 16, 1,700 a month for the three bedrooms. The price appreciation is starting to tick up. Now, if you get a little bit too farther away from that area, like maybe on the other side of Cedar, I still think that area is stagnant. Again, no disrespect to the real estate industry, but what I've come to appreciate in talking to people that are calling us up about investment advice is going to a realtor is not necessarily the smart move to buy an investment property. I'll elaborate, but your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, that's like saying, I had a bad experience at a mechanic shop, so all mechanics are bad. I think it's like other.
Yeah,
I
okay,
mean,
fair
you're
enough.
you're a contractor. I've had bad contractors and good contractors, so there's a difference. Let's agree on that there's a difference. That there are people that add value, and then there's people that are just looking to take your money, right?
Well, okay, but okay, and that's fair. Okay, so I'll give on that point. I think and we're getting into, folks, the whole dodging a bullet and buying a lemon. I
Right.
think that realtors, their main focus is getting owner occupied. That's what my sense has been.
And Mike, there are realtors who concentrate on working with investors and who are really good at it. And then you get the dabblers. There's the realtors that focus on residential owner occupied real estate and they try to work with investors, but they're not good at it. And that's where you get into trouble. It's like, I go to my orthopedist to do brain surgery. Yeah, but he did a good job fixing my ankle. He should be able to fix my brain, right?
Fair enough. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. But here's what I think you need to do if you're an investor looking to buy into Cleveland. You need to make sure that whatever property that you are looking to buy has a tenant in place, a good tenant that's got good credit, that is going to pay X number of dollars for 1 year. You do not buy that property unless you have a tenant in place, because that's a good way of having the mark. First of all, the tenant's not going to pay $1,500 on a house that's in a bad neighborhood and it's in rough condition, right?
Agreed.
Okay, so most of the people that I've been dealing with who have been calling us are buying a house first, and then they're looking to us to manage the property, get them a tenant, et cetera, et cetera. And when we take a look at these properties, I'm shocked
Yeah.
at A, where the neighborhood is, and B, the condition of the house. For example, let's get into the lemon story.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you if I could tell part of this story, because I know, obviously you were involved in it. So if I tell it from my perspective, I think you might enjoy hearing it.
Okay.
So indulge me.
Go
So
ahead.
so you were talking about realtors and working with a realtor. You got to remember, realtors get paid when they sell a house. Their motivation may not necessarily be the long-term picture. So what we've talked about from day one is assembling your team. And the team isn't just the realtor. It has to include someone to maintain and manage the property. So when you don't have checks and balances and you have just one person who is guarding the hen house, they may take you down a path that isn't necessarily right or best. And it's not that they're a bad person, but in the case, so get specific to the case you were talking about, buying a lemon. Here's a house that was about to be purchased, and from one perspective, hey, this is a great house, it's in Cleveland Heights, it's great. And then you got eyes on it and you said, wait a minute, looking at it from my perspective, here's a bunch of stuff that you guys may not have seen or maybe didn't take a close enough look at. And because of your perspective, you helped a client dodge a bullet. Right?
We're
Is that a
talking
good
not
representation?
right, not just a a bullet, an artillery shell. Okay,
Right.
folks, this house, first of all, I mean, we're the uh, the lady who dodged that artillery shell will be, on in the next week or two, but uh, she bought one of our properties, and we have a tenant in place. We have a 2-year lease in place. We're going to give her the prop management. We're managing the property. We're going to take care of the house. I mean, it's all turnkey. She's not going to have any problems getting her monthly check. There's no evictions coming up. We're going to make sure that the tenant we brought in maintains the house. We cut the grass. We clean the gutters. So she's got a great setup there as her first investment in Cleveland from the California area. The other house she was looking at is the next street over. It's on one side of the house is a vacant house. In the back of the house are 2 vacant houses in their backyard. So you drive up this, you look at this house, and it looks like you're going to be you're going to be living in this house surrounded by vacant properties that are not maintained, that are overgrown. The garage was leaning over. I don't know if you've seen this house, Mike. The garage had to be, the sill plates were rotted. The front porch was rotted, so she had to get a new floor. The back steps were falling apart. The roof was a double layer with half of the sheathing was rotted. It passed the point of sale from the city, and she brought in an inspector to look at it, who made a few cursory notes. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So having that, what, folks, if you're going to buy a property for rental, I mean, A, see it if you can, unless you're out in California, but B, make sure that whoever you have as a property manager can say, yeah, I can get a tenant here. I know I can get a tenant in here. This will be easy to rent. And that'll be your kind of extra safeguard. But, Mike, over the last month, we've got this Kensington house, Jerry's house, who's from San Diego. We've got this house in Neela View, ladies in California, and we have another house. I cannot believe every time I turn around with these houses, the endless repairs. The faucet's not working. We just saw rot. The chimney doesn't work. I mean, all these kinds of things. So if you're looking to buy into Cleveland right now, I think you might be getting into a bidding war on properties where you're looking the other way on what really you need to sink into it to rehab it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, certainly because it's a seller's market, buyers tend to compromise more. It's not like it was 5 years ago when you had your pick of properties. So because buyers are so hungry, they tend to compromise more. And side note, I want to make sure everybody knows that house you were talking about, the lemon, was not mine. I was not the agent on that.
Yeah. Well, you're putting your eyes on every property that you're listing.
Yeah. And again, for those who don't know me, I do mostly listings. My team of buyers agents are the ones who are running around looking at properties and doing what we're talking about. And I train them personally, and I train them well. But again, it's all part of the team and the checks and balances. You from a realtor's point of view, they see a gold mine. But from the contractor point of view, you're trained to look for different things, so you may go in and say, geez, what are you looking at here, guy? I see $20,000 in work. So
yeah,
that's the team approach.
Yeah, I think I'm almost thinking that besides offering consulting services, working with you in terms of recommending the neighborhoods to go in, after what we have witnessed in the last couple of months with our clients buying substandard housing, we should get into the home inspection business, because it's almost, some of these home inspectors, I guess it's like contractors or realtors or doctors or lawyers. I mean, they're good lawyers and they're bad lawyers. They're good contractors and they're bad contractors. But I guess I'm really spooked because two of our new clients that we've had, when I asked for did they have the house inspected? They go, yeah, here's the inspection report. I said, well, the front porch is rotted out. This guy even walk on the porch? Who did the inspection? So look, obviously for me, if we're going to take on a client to make this property work, I got to make sure that I would be comfortable living in it,
Right.
or my daughter or my son would be comfortable, living in that property, because I know if I'm comfortable with it, my our potential tenants that come in, they go through our website. They know we're a good company. We're rated well in Cleveland Heights and in Shaker Heights as a qualified contractor on their approved list. So I know it'll work. And unlike the realtor, look at the realtor selling the house, right? And then it's done. Okay, it's done. They're out of here. So selling a lemon, maybe should get a home warranty, right?
Absolutely. We recommend home warranties with every listing. It's just one of those things that protects against unforeseen issues.
Yeah. Well, look, and you want your reputation. I want my reputation going forward to be maintained. And people gotta, they've gotta look at the houses that are sold, that you sell, and there should be some way of rating a realtor, and say, how was I satisfied a year later with my house?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, actually, just like everything else now, reviews for realtors have become a pretty big thing. So, you can look on Google, you can look on Zillow. West Coast, they use Yelp a little more than we do. So here, in the Midwest, Yelp is not as big a thing, but there are plenty of reviews online. And just like any other purchase, like if I go on Amazon to buy a stereo or to buy a computer or whatever, read the reviews. I agree with that 100%.
Well, one of my potential new clients that we talked about, another lady in California, and she's really sharp. I've been impressed with her. She actually took a course. She's a doctor, and there's a course offered for doctors to get into investing in real estate. And she dodged a bullet. She didn't dodge an artillery shell. This was a house that was in an area that I don't think is going to be performing really well over the next 5 years. Last point I want to make is, not only do you have to have a house that's not a lemon, that you're not looking like our other lady on Neela View, who was going to probably have to spend $40,000 just to get it in a decent shape, with a new roof, a new garage, a new this and a new that. You have to be in an area which you feel in 5 years is going to appreciate. So in 5 years time, I'm thinking that if it's a good investment now and you're buying, in 5 years that should appreciate 25 to 30%. Okay, I'm thinking of Royal Heights. Royal Heights now is at its height. It's not going to grow any but more. It's kind of like buying Apple stock now. It's at its peak. But you get some of these on the fringes, and you're buying a house for $100,000. I can see in 5 years, like in the Silsbee area, that could be worth 130. So appreciation in a 5-year span is as important as your rental income. Your thoughts on that, Mike?
Yeah, and I think that there's a difference in appreciation too. There, like we said, there's the areas that we see some significant upside, and then there's the areas where the upside is going to be less. And I think the word you used was perfect. It's stagnant. These are areas that, yeah, they might appreciate a little, but then you've got these fringe areas that are on the borders of areas that are hot that could be worth the speculation.
Right. And then you have your aggressive investment. And this is investment where, is this place going to be the next hood, the next ghetto? Is this an area that they're going to basically bulldoze, like sections of East Cleveland, to make way for the new apartments buildings in that Case or University Hospitals are doing? Or is this the next Tremont, the next Ohio City? And that's what I've been pushing on this podcast and to other investors. I really think the Forest Hill area is going to be the next Ohio City. I think 5 years out, you're not talking about a 20 to 30% appreciation. You're talking about a 50 to 60 to 75% appreciation. I mean, Mike, if you had bought property in Little Italy 5 years ago, you would have doubled your money.
Yeah, well, you and I wouldn't be on a podcast right now. We'd both have our toes in the sand on a beach in the.
We'd be getting into our private jet, that's for sure. No. So, okay, well, we will put that on the schedule for next week. Mike, we'll let you go. We'll let you get to your dinner party. Masks. Well, it's just you and your wife, right?
Well, it's actually going to be 4 of us tonight, but everyone's vaccinated except for me.
Okay.
So I'll be on the other side of the room, and they'll all be enjoying each other's company.
Well, if they've got three, you've got 3 vaccinated, you should be okay. So
yeah, I'm still going to keep my distance. I got my first one scheduled for next week because they finally got to young guys like me who are 50 and over.
Okay. Well, I'm 10 days into my first shot, and my next one's coming up in my second one will be in like 10 days. And then we'll be talking from the sunny climes of South Beach. So that'll be a fun podcast. So
sounds good.
All right. Okay. All right, Mike, have a good weekend. Thanks everybody. And look for more episodes coming up. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast. Find all your favorite episodes on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, Overcast, and more.